are expendable and no one cares about them. Right now, as we're having this space, like 2 hours ago, there was a video circulating of a man who was being dragged out of his house by police, and the public was recording. And they were telling the children of that man, go and cling to your father, so that the police do not take him. And they were heckling, and not even heckling, they were shouting and raising an alarm and telling the police, you cannot take him, he has done nothing. Now, that man, until now, we do not know his name. It's because he's an expendable slum dweller. What are we looking for here? We're looking for the systems that are supposed to work for all Kenyans. But the system that we have currently has separated us in an apartheid manner. The Kenyans who matter and Kenyans who do not matter. Now, on to the next point. Next point is that everyone is saying we need a system that works. But how will you have a system that works if you're not willing to change the system? Sorry to say, the legal framework and the academic structures that we have in this country make it so hard to change the system such that we are stuck to the system. I'll give you a very clean example. The system we have merges policy and politics together. They're inseparable. That is why we are saying the president can make declarations and they become policy. He can actually go and do things that are outside the law or inside the law and they become policy. And that is what we need to separate. Let me give you a clear example. Sorry, I'll speak for a bit long because this mic is rare to get. Let me give you a clear example of how we cannot be relying on a bad system and hoping that the goodwill of the people who go there will help us. If you have a bank system does not rely on the goodwill of the employees. The bank system is designed to assume that everyone who works in that bank is a devil. No one is an angel. No one can come there and promise you and give you a manifesto and say, I will increase your profits and I will not steal anything. And then you trust him. If you lose 10 shillings in a bank today, in less than an hour, they'll have revamped that system to ensure they know where that 10 shillings got lost from and that mistake never gets repeated again. But if you lose $400 million like we have lost in 2023, the OAG will come and tell us money has been lost. And then we will leave the system there, remove all the employees, and then look for new employees who will give us new promises that are not legally binding, telling us that they will not steal any more money. What kind of system are we running where it is reliant on the goodwill of people? It is totally illogical. Now, if the other example that we usually give is that you cannot rely on the promises of people, even in Bible school, even in theological school, or in Islamic school. Those people are there studying the Holy Scriptures. They have made vows, and they are there to observe purity. But there is no religious school that has one dormitory for male and female students. Why? Because you cannot rely on the goodwill of people. You have to separate the genders because you know exactly what will happen if you mix them, regardless of the promises these people have given you. So if you cannot mix genders in theology school, how comes you can put politicians in the same bed with your taxis and expect that no rape will happen because the politician has told you he will not rape your taxis? It is totally illogical, the system that we have. Hata mkisema mara ngapi that our constitution is great, it is not great. It is one of the most nonsensical structures that we have. And this is how we are supposed to look into making a system that will work. This is the third point now. How do we ensure that the bogus constitution that we have and the bogus structures that we have are changed so that evil stops happening? You can't fire Murkomen today and then ask the same person who hired him to look for another person who will come and fill his position. It's nonsensical. Sorry to say, it's total nonsense. So this is how you make sure the systems work. The first thing you do is separate policy from politics, government from politicians. Because as you can hear, people are using government and to mean politicians in the entire conversation. So you hear someone saying, the government has arrested people, the government has issued propaganda, the government is issuing false numbers. That is not true. Those are the politicians. The difference between a government and politicians is this. The government is the structure. It is the machine. The politicians are the temporary operators of that machine. The government will stay there when the politicians leave. So, let us change the structure of the machine to work for us. You can't tell us to be vigilant all the time because you have designed a machine that is full of loopholes. Right now I've just made a cup of tea. I did not need to stand there and be vigilant on my microwave and see whether it will overheat my tea, because the microwave is designed to work in the way I want it to. After it reaches 2 minutes, 10 seconds, it stops and alerts me. So I do not have to be vigilant about the machinery in my house. It is the same way you're not supposed to be vigilant about the machine called government. It is not supposed to take your whole day looking at who is stealing what in which ministry, who is flying out with our money, where is it going. That is not your job as a citizen. You're supposed to be working to build the nation, not monitoring thieves. So, first separate government from politicians. Second thing, separate politics from policy. I know you've been taught in school that they're the same thing. They are not the same thing. Here's a clear example. How many people in Kenya vote? Even if you say it's 10 million, 40 million do not vote. Yet, they must have good life. And that good life cannot be reliant on politics. It has to be reliant on policy. Basically, policy is what makes your life work. Whether you vote in an angel or a demon, policy is supposed to ensure you have clean water, you have clean food, you have clean air, you have good housing, you have good roads. That is not politics. In fact, the politician is supposed to come in and go out and not affect policy at all. Policy is not reliant on a politician. A clear example I can give you before I move to the next point is, Ruto is not supposed to be telling you that he has allowed 25 stories to be built in Isili. That is not his job. He's not an urban planner, he's not an architect, he's not an engineer. So what grounds does he have as a politician to tell you that Isili can go to 25 stories? That should be the work of the built professionals. They come, they sit down, they tell you, this is the policy that we have revised, and we have put these structures in place. We have changed the city to accommodate 25 stories. Now you can build 25 stories. But Ruto and Charles Hinga standing there and telling you you can build 25 stories. They have not changed the city, and they do not even have a single clue about how our city works. Hinga is an accountant, Ruto is a botanist, and both of them are clueless politicians. So on to my next point, and I think it's going to be my second last point. How do we change this structure so that it accommodates everyone and it doesn't leave out anyone like in the slums or wherever, and it has policies that work for us 24/7 regardless of the politicians? We have to make sure policy is headed by 5 categories of people who are interchangeable, but 5 categories. The first category is what the Constitution calls the people who have sovereign power in this country. The people are the ones who say what policy they need. They sit down, they say, we need clean water here, we need farming land here, we need this forest preserved, we need these roads built. So the people are the ones who come up with the brief of the policy. They can either represent this brief directly, as said in Article 1, or they can have representatives. Because they can have representatives, Group 1 of the people elects Group 2 of the politicians. Now the politicians collect the brief of the people. They go and say, the people have said this, design policy to answer these questions. And then also when the policy is designed, they go back to the people and ask them, is the design you have been given working for you? Yes or no? What would you like changed? So they also represent the feedback of the people. And they do oversight to ensure the policy that is designed is working properly within budget and within time frames and within legal structures. So politicians atuja change role yao. It's the same thing. Representation, oversight, and legislature. But legislature is what we are touching. Then the third group is academia. Academia, sorry to say, are glorified data collectors. So that is their job. Go out there, listen to what the people are saying, listen to what the politicians are saying, get the data. Because academia can only look at the present and the past. It can't see the future. And policy works in the future. So academia's job is to look at the present and say the systems are like this right now. And look at the past and say the systems were like this in the past. Here is the data showing that this is what is happening on the ground. So you have the brief from the people and the data from academia. It is given to the fourth group, the professionals. The professionals now sit down and say, this is what the people want. This is what the data is saying. These are the available resources. This is the available time. What can we do to make sure as many needs are met within the available resources and time, and in the most effective and efficient way? That is the professionals now. And anytime they design a policy, it goes back to the people and the politicians to gauge the efficacy of what they have designed. Then also the other role that the professionals play, Group 4, is supervising Group 5, the executive. Because the executive has to implement what has been designed. I can give you a very simple example. When architects design a building, they are not the ones who build it. They design the building according to what the client has said he wants, and according to the resources the client has, and the time the building is supposed to take, and also the legal framework that allows that building to be there. Then the contractor now, who is the executive, comes and does this building under the supervision of the architect and the other professionals. So the professional here, the policy maker, is the architect of all these things and is answerable. If you make a bad policy, you get jailed. Now the executive Group 5 is executing this policy, it's implementing this policy, and it is under the supervision of the professionals, which means money is not being touched by Group 1 to Group 3. It's only circulating between Group 3 and Group 4. And that is where money gets stolen right now in the current nonsensical structures that we have. It is stolen through private sector entrepreneurship. There is no money that is stolen by public sector. Stolen money always moves from public coffers into private sector pockets. Never vice versa. Never ever. So we are going to seal where the money is getting stolen from. And how do we still seal that? By Group 5 executive being the NYS. NYS answers all the tenders that government has. If you want food supplied to any school, NYS grows it, processes it, packs it, supplies it. If you want uniforms done, NYS does that. If you want transport done, a minister moved from one place to another, NYS does that. If NYS cannot meet any of those things, it does procurement. Direct, government to government. If you want oil, NYS cannot produce oil, it goes and talks to Libya or whoever, gets this thing direct. No private sector entrepreneurs anywhere. So once you do that, you kill all the entrepreneurship and you kill all the theft. So those are the 5 groups. Now I go on to my last point. My last point is, I thank LSK for being there for us. They're actually handling the legal part of this revolution very well, and I thank you for that. But I ask, where are the other professional bodies? Because you have said Group 4 is professional bodies, not professionals. You are saying professional bodies. Be very, please be aware of the difference between a professional body and a body of professionals. A professional body is LSK. A body of professionals is a few professionals in a group. LSK has the power, or rather, the professional body should have the power to deregister errant professionals. And it works on a rotational basis, not an elective basis. That's a whole other argument I can clarify later. But we are on this last point. Where are the other bodies? LSK is here. Where is the Architectural Association of Kenya? I'll tell you where it is. It is in bed with Charles Hinga. They're the ones who are doing housing levy. They're the ones who are doing the affordable housing haste. They're the ones who are doing every renovation that is eating our money. That is where Architectural Association of Kenya is. That is why they are not talking. And they are also the ones, together with the quantity surveyors, they have a person sitting in the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board. What does that mean? That everything that has been stolen, this guy is aware of. And the review that is done on the stolen stuff, this guy is aware of. And is part of AAK, and AAK is silent. Where are the planners? Where is KIP and where is DISPAC? Where are the planning bodies? They're the ones who are in bed with government doing all the land grabs and all the land hastes. Affordable housing is one of the biggest land hastes. They're the ones who are in charge of that. They're the ones who are doing special planning zones for Akina Konza City, Akina Tatu City, Akina Tilisi. They're the ones who are grabbing land and giving it to foreigners to start conservancies. That is why they are silent and LSK is speaking. Where is IEK and EBK? Where are the engineers? They're the ones who are eating Aurora and Kimwarer Dam. They're the ones who are eating the stadium hastes. They're the ones who are eating the power hastes. Such that we don't have sustainable power, we are being supplied by APPs. They're the ones who are eating the money that is supposed to go to giving every Kenyan clean water. Infrastructure, it is them that they're eating. They're the ones who have eaten SGR. They have eaten expressway. They have eaten BRT, bus rapid transport. So they are there, they are eating and they cannot talk when LSK is talking. ISPAC the same, the certified public accountants. So where are all these bodies? That is what I want to ask. If you're supposed to form Group 4, where the professionals are making policy, we need to occupy these bodies, bring them to sense, do forensic audit, arrest all who have been implicated, put them under the force of the law, clean it up and form these professional bodies that will drive policy and do project management over the implementation of policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mao, for those contributions. And I think you've raised substantive issues about professional bodies. As the Law Society of Kenya, we will not relent in holding government accountable. It has been done. We are not the first persons to actually do this. It has been an ongoing process from the previous regimes to where we are today. And it's important that you have put perspectives into the current professional bodies. What is it they are doing to protect their members? And remember, while protecting the constitution, they also protect their members, because at the end of the day, it's a collective duty. And they usually say that professional bodies have a duty because they don't speak as laymen, they speak from a point of information. They already know what the law provides for. These are people who are schooled, they have gone through classes, they know what is supposed to be done. I implore upon you to call upon your professional bodies, because we cannot pursue your professional bodies to say something. It is you as professionals within that space to call your members out, to call your leaders out and tell them, please come out and protect our rights. I appreciate the position that the KMPDU has taken. I appreciate the role they have played within this space, because they provided services at every juncture, at every level in terms of attending to people who are injured during these demonstrations. They have actually been at the forefront of these demonstrations, and that I think we give credit to them and the leadership. We expect to have this from the different professions within the country to take up a position. And it's important because it does not if you take up a position on behalf of your members, it's important that the members of the public should know, and including the members of your organization, that you've taken this position, and that position should actually be a position protecting the Constitution of Kenya. Because what we are fighting for job opportunities. We are fighting for space in terms of conversations on this space. We are fighting for young people to take up responsibilities within the public space. You all know that actually a majority of of the young people are now within the ages of 18 and 35, and they have the skills. They have been trained through the educational system within the country to take up responsibilities, and these are competent people. And so what the Law Society is doing is to fight for these professionals. When we say that we have to have substantive and procedural processes in terms of appointment to public office being followed, including competence issues, ensuring that the people we appoint to these offices are not actually being presented because of the tribe where they come from and stuff like that, we speak for everyone. Remember, we have concerns in the agriculture sector alone. We have people saying there are GMOs being introduced into the agriculture sector. Do we have professionals within that space who are speaking on these issues? We have medical issues, we have treatments, we have medications that are within our space. Do we have medical doctors speaking to these issues? We have different sectors of this economy, including construction. And I think, Mao, you have mentioned about this issue, on these issues, and you have illuminated some of the issues that we had not discussed about. As professionals within your space, we have journalists, and I think the media has played its role as an institution to actually expose what is happening within the streets, expose the injustices, expose what is happening in government, and they have actually been deliberate in their efforts to ensure that actually the members of the public understand their role and at the same time appreciate what is happening in the street, so that they can be able to make their positions clear. The members of the public can be able to make their positions clear. Before I allow the next speaker, I think someone raised issues about Shakahola and the prosecutions therein. You need to appreciate the fact that this is a continuous process that is continuing in that region. We have a representative of the Law Society following up on the murders within the Shakahola space. We have reports, and we continue to follow up as to what decisions the High Court makes. We will continue to ensure that the individuals being named, who are named within this space, will take responsibility for those deaths. Religion is no longer an issue within our space, and it's very important to understand what religion has done to our parents, our former parents, our grandfathers. Religion has been an opium for the masses. And I like the fact that Gen Zs are now saying, look, we do not want you to tell us what is religious, because religion is in the heart. And those constitutional and theologists studied religion, they will tell you that religion is in the heart. The church is in your heart, and we have to actually ensure that we're not duped from our churches. We are not duped by our religious leaders to understand, to ignore, and continue suffering. I don't know where the church is when you see those bodies being taken out from that quarry. I don't know where the church is when young people are found abandoned and killed in those places. We have to call out these religious leaders who are in bed with government, and government should know, why is it that it's our parents, our grandfathers who worship in these churches, and the young people don't want to participate in these churches because they know the truth. They know that religion, as currently constituted, does not agitate for human rights, does not fight for the right to speech, does not fight for the right to the freedoms and the fundamental freedoms under the Constitution. And so they know what the Constitution talks about. And whereas there is freedom of religion under the new Constitution of Kenya 2010, people have grown and continued to study and find out that religion is not the solution to the problems, because we have people die every day. Gen Zs have already said we do not want politicians on the pulpits, on church pulpits. The church should actually take its position. And I think the church has a responsibility to hold government institutions accountable on their conduct, hold leaders responsible in their conduct. There are allegations that have been made that the church has been used previously to, process monies, proceeds of crime, where someone donates 20 million in cash, that money is processed back to companies, and it comes back to the same politicians. The pulpit has been desecrated. Actually, it has been used against what it was supposed to be meant for. And that's why the Gen Z are saying we are not willing to participate in a religious process and allow a politician to speak from that pulpit going forward. We hold and continue to hold the Director of Public Prosecution accountable with the Shakahola killings. We hope that there will be convictions for the people accused to have murdered people on the basis of religion. And we will continue to hold for, I believe, all the civil societies and the law society of Kenya is actually following up closely and finding out as to how the court will determine the questions of liability in court as we continue going forward. I don't know whether Rosemary, are you there? If you kindly can proceed, and then we have Fadil. Rosemary?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Wakil Emmanuel. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Kindly proceed.
Okay. Mimi nilikuwa tu, first of course, I really want to thank you for giving me the space, the mic to speak, and to thank you and Wakili, Faith, and yourself for putting together this space. Some of us have been here on the spaces a little bit longer. I was very active on the space during the campaign election time, and I do remember having talked to a lot of youth, our generation Z ambao wanakwenda kwenye street, and picketing, which of course they have every right according to the Constitution of Kenya. A lot of them, when I urged them and encouraged them to vote, waliniambia auntie, hiyo hatutakwenda, that is a holiday, ni siku ya kuchukua blanketi na kujifunika, and hatutakwenda huko. Now, standing on the fence, here we are. Now, I know this may sound bitter and difficult, and say I told you so. Mulikwenda, mulisimama kwenye fence, and these are the results that we have on us as of today. A lot of speakers previously have brought up really very good points. My heart goes out on what is happening in the country. I'm not in the country myself. I live in the US. And what is happening in Mukuru, some of those bodies are being drained out of that quarry and what have you. It's just heart-wrenching, so sad. Bado hata we've not recovered from Denzel's body being recovered from the quarry, and we are now seeing all these body parts as mekato na nini. And then you see some of these pronouncements from our politicians. Kuna huyu baba mmoja, I can't remember his name, sijui anaitwa Sahir ama kitu kama hicho, anatoka Kisii. He's an MP. He issued a statement, I think it's on his handle, akawa anasema, I wish sure those bodies did not come from the mortuary, wakenda wakatupwa huko. Really, when a leader makes a pronouncement like that, where is NCIC? all these instruments and organizations and associations and forums that we have well put together and are not doing their work. They are asleep. Na wanakula allowances na nini. So my heart goes out when statements like those are said. People should be, really take him down on that. Sio kumsalimia, I don't look for violence. Lakini, really, either to just not follow them, some of these people. In fact, nataka kuomba hata the audience here at one point, we were almost about 10,000. Follow chairman wetu wa LSK and yourself. Wewe utoke kwenye hiyo 5K, at least uingie 1 million. Because why am I saying that? To get a huge following, you can always post things and you have a large audience ambao you can also influence. Na ukiwa kwenye public space, unatupatia mawaidha. You give us some of those anecdotes and information and guidance that you so eloquently put together. Of course, your speech, I know it's your co-hosting, it was a bit too long. So, ungeifanya mkato hata kina Mao Deo, who is a good friend of mine, amezungumza kwa muda mrefu. For myself as a broadcaster or former broadcaster, I will not take a lot of time, but I'll just say, I'll take probably another 2 minutes and say this, or a minute or so. Kusema, there are 3 things that are ailing us. I mean, of course, our children, our generations, sisi tuna watoto hiyo miaka, wamekwenda kwenye street, wametuonyesha how it is done through the social media and on the streets. And I just hope that LSK will continue doing what they are doing to protect them. All these abductions, I think our families, we need to action to call. Lazima ucheck watoto wako nyumbani, wamefika nyumbani kama wamekwenda picketing, because some of these reports we are not getting, bodies are being found. Yule mama, and we've seen it on WhatsApp and on the social media, yule mama ambaye alikuwa anatafuta mjukuu wake anaitwa Ishmael kutoka Githurai. And also I think in the county assembly where Dada Faith, Wakili Faith was there, I just remember the mama ambaye alikuwa anauliza mtoto wake Kamau. And the reason I'm also mentioning Ishmael and Kamau, it is important. These are our children and my grandchildren. It is important that we mention their names. They have not gone in vain and we shall not forget them. Justice must be found. They have been on a lot of these spaces na niliona hata I think it was Wakili Willis akisema hata cases za kina Msando, hata cases za kina Baby Pendo, all these things are going to come up. Yes, the IG has resigned, but is that the end? So I do not want to belabor the point that may have been covered earlier by colleagues here. These things are being recorded and one can take time and even go and listen. And I usually do that. I mean, when I try to find time to listen to some of these statements that have been said. Na zile statements mzuri, mimi nachukua and I take it, I amplify them. 3 areas. Unaona, the reason our children went to the street is because of the finance bill 2024. And of course, what has happened, I'm not going to repeat that. And I just hope that that law is not enacted in whatever form. But of course, there's been threats. Kwa vile finance bill 2024 haikwenda through. Now we are going to borrow $1 trillion. Now, this area is not going to get this support. This area is not going to get support. Are those the pronouncements that should be coming from our leaders? Mimi siku zote huwa na quote President Obama. I mean, for purposes of this discussion, yeye in the first term alichaguliwa with only 56%. Na ile maji nyingine that never elected him, in his first statement, alisema he thanked the 56% that elected him. Na akasema those who did not elect him, he is going to work day and night to bring them on board and see what he can deliver. These are the sort of things that we expect from our leaders. Sio kwenda, they get into office and they start vomiting on our shoes. Hiyo largesse and opulence that has been, talked about, we've seen it. And it's there. I mean, it is just totally unacceptable. As I go to the 3 areas that I know are really ailing us, other than the finance bill, kuna hiyo mambo ya just the economic times, really hard. Unakwenda with the 10,000 Kenya shillings kwenye supermarket, some of the items you come out with, honestly, ni kama vitu viwili vitatu ama at most, very few things. People are barely surviving. I mean, leave living in Kenya now, I don't know, ni kama ambaye unakaa Switzerland, uko Zurich or something like that, if you have to compare it to other places. But those other places, kuna minimum wage ambao watu wanalipwa. And then the second problem, unapata some of our young people, some of those kids, some of our children who are going on the streets are graduates. Na hata if you are not a graduate, wewe ni mtu wa jua kali, unajua kupolish viatu vizuri ama mambo ya mjengo, you want a job. People do not want handouts, but they want to be dignified and getting a job. At my age, I can tell you, and some of you who are young may not even remember that, when people are leaving university, wakitoka, kuna kazi na wangojea East African Industries. Wewe kama ni DO unakuwa posted somewhere. These days, that doesn't happen. So those are the two, really, I believe, that things that LSK can take up, and also LSK can be the watchdog in terms of pulling some of those professional job associations and forums that Mao Day are referred to. Where are they? They should stand to be counted. So nikimalizia, what I would like to say ni kwamba all of us here are hurting, and irrespective of where we live, hata kama unaishi majuu ama Marekani ama wherever it is, we are also supporting our families. So we know exactly how much those things are. So at the end of the day, mimi nataka kuomba kuwa, the question I have for you Akili ni kwamba, where do we go from here? Vijana wamefanya kazi yao, wamesema no dialogue, hawataki hiyo, so hatutawalazimisha with dialogue, but where do we go from here? What are some of the low hanging fruit right now? Hatuna cabinet, it was dissolved, lakini ma PSS bado wako. Where do we go from here? You know, I do not want to belabor the point, but I believe one of the things that I've said as a parting shot as I learned ni kwamba, when you go through all these spaces ambao kuna watu wengi, the other day ile ya Miguna, it had almost about 1 million, and other places, which is good. But are we harnessing, are we putting together this material? Ili there are experts among us who can actually store this data. Manake, this information is very important for somebody, some interns, some JPOs can go through and sieve through and look at priorities in terms of what can be handled almost immediately. Thank you very much. Na nawashukuru sana for giving me the mic. Truly appreciate. Lakini pia naomba watu wasizungumze for so long mpaka tu unasahau alianzia wapi na amemalizia wapi. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. We can keep it 2 minutes each of us for those of you who have the mic, so that we ensure that we collect as many views as possible. I have Isaac. Isaac, if you have the microphone, kindly proceed. Isaac, are you there? If Isaac is not there, Elijah? Elijah Sang?
And Wakili Manwa, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop so that nafasi yangu inachukuliwa na mtu mwingine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, my name is
Elijah, you can proceed. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for giving me this chance. Currently I'm in Somalia. I've worked in Iraq, and I've worked in Afghanistan. So my only point which I want to express is peace. Because one time, I must say, I was a soldier. And if I was a soldier, when you people bash somebody called a soldier, it feels bad that these people are also human beings. We're happy of the democracy that is going on in Kenya right now. It is giving us light. It is giving us even a name where we are. But my problem is, are these soldiers our brothers, sisters, or relatives? To an extent that we bash and we abuse in such a way. I was, all of us were on social media and we were watching what is going on. And I tend to ask myself if, as lawyers, you are biased. Because humanity means to protect all people. Soldiers are human beings. Though they are in government, you can say they're in government, but they are human beings. Before I went to let's say military, I was in university and I studied. And what happened is the training that soldiers get is not the same when he gets in and when he gets out. So let us get some talks that cannot ignite some egos that can damage our country. I've heard somebody in Norway talking about having a demonstration, maandamano in Kenya. If we need to follow law, and we need to follow what Constitution says, maandamano is accepted in Kenya, is in law, and it is meant to be licensed, that you start from somewhere to somewhere, and from this time to this time, it should be peaceful. So it's like I'm also thinking about that lady whose shoe rack was burnt, and she had to go and repair it for 40,000 or to 60,000. Who is representing this lady? There is a lady who dropped from second floor, the ground, and he broke her leg. Who is representing this lady? So there's also that person who lost up to 14 million business. Who is representing that guy? So my problem is, let's forge a way forward for a country. Let's not damage the country the way it is. I yearn for peace. Where we are is not peaceful at all. And if at all some of you can be taken around to these countries like Somalia, you will cry. You will cry and ask yourself, is Kenya peaceful? When you go to places like Iraq, people are not safe. And I must say like this, as a trained person, let's learn to do a civic duty by educating our people how to demonstrate. Because I have a gun with a bullet, and they are throwing to me a stone. And those two people are Kenyans. One has a stone, one has a gun. So my point is, let's love our country. Those who are in America, educate us how we can do mandaman, peaceful mandaman. And one time I will try to go to court and be represented by maybe Faith Odhiambo, that how can a soldier or a police be protected? Does he has any right, or does she has any right? That person who has destroyed, who has his own properties gone, does he or she has right? That's my point. Otherwise, I'm pleased to be here, and I will continue listening to you people, and let's have peace in our country. Those other people don't enjoy what you guys enjoy in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elijah, for your contribution. I think I first want to appreciate the fact that you're one of the men and women, one of the men this country has sent out to protect the sovereignty of this state. We haven't had soldiers speak on this forum, but it's important to know that as the Law Society, we have been
in this space, and I think the LSK is championing this very strongly. No one should lose their lives going forward. I think that should be the bare minimum. No lives lost. Personally, I am an orphan. I grew up an orphan. My mother struggled to raise me up. We were poor. We did not get the bursaries. I went to primary schools bare feet. I had a 32-page book split into two so that I can use one for one subject for maths and another one for writing. I sat on a stone under a tree in a classroom. That was the classroom. Today, by the power of the Almighty, at least I'm better off. But I do not want our children, the next generation and the next generation, to still go through that kind of life. And if you dissect exactly what happened when I was growing up, there used to be a narrative that better education was exclusive for the haves, and the have-nots were rendered to take and do whatever jobs that they could do, like kazi ya mjengo and the likes, right? I don't demean kazi ya mjengo. It's a good job. I mean, at the end of the day, we need somebody to work there, but there was this attitude by the bourgeoisie that certain people should not rise to a certain level. And this brings the topic of equality and justice, equity and justice. Like, when do we create a level playing field for every Kenyan to have opportunity to experience and live their full potential? So the fight that I'm reading into, and I said I'm in the diaspora, but what I'm reading into right now and what everyone has come together is to fight a common enemy. The number one enemy, Mr. Kach, I repeat, is impunity. The level of impunity that has permeated through the Kenyan elite society, it's on a level that has never been seen. Madam LSK Chair Lady, you know that there are certain Kenyans who are fleecing Kenyans. They're conmen in town. They come up with very nice choreographed stories, or they create like these fake companies, opportunities, and make Kenyans contribute money. And these are poor Kenyans who are struggling to find a job. They're told, send money, we'll do this to you, we'll do that. You know what? When the law enforcement is looking for them, they're the first to get, what's this thing called? This legal thing where you can't be arrested. I'm trying to forget the name, I'm trying to remember the name. But they get that court order that they can't be arrested. And we know they're criminals. And it's not just the conmen, it's the members of parliament in the legislature, it's some of the cabinet secretaries, it's the arrogance they talk to. Madam LSK Chair Lady, do you remember when a member of parliament will pull up a weapon, like what you guys call a gun, and put it out there and is holding it and showing it to the people with impunity? There are laws on when a concealed weapon can be displayed. These members of parliament can pull it. I even hear some members of parliament have even killed people, innocent people. How low can we sink in terms of impunity in this country called Kenya? How low? My heart bleeds because of somebody who's just spoken, and he's a soldier, and I respect him. Kenya has not seen war. I believe Kenya should not see war. I've been to war. I know how war looks like. I know how war-torn country looks like. I know the consequences of war. Let's not drive Kenya into that. But I believe that justice, impunity should be ripped out of our country. Corruption should be... Look, I don't even know how much I can emphasize impunity and corruption. Two most important. Like, we need to chop this. I will sacrifice anything to see that impunity and corruption is pulled out of Kenya. Because of what I went through. My mother, I'm an orphan. My father died, my mother died. worse stories to tell than me. But today, I'm proud to say that, one, thanks to God, I'm in a better opportunity. I'm in a better place in terms of and I'm able to give back. This is my way of giving back. And I want to challenge everyone in the diaspora, those who have a story like mine, or even if you're not in the diaspora, you need to use this opportunity to give back. It's not about financial giving back, it's about telling your story and sticking and helping to make sure that the true change is brought to Kenya. Kenya is on the path. After this is a moment in time. This is a transformation moment in time for Kenya. Kenya will never be the same again. I want to see a day when people run away from being members of parliament if they do not believe they have the interest of the people at heart. They should leave it. Today, people go to parliament to get rich. I want a day when parliament or parliamentarians or representation is true servant leadership.
Manu, who is the next speaker? Wakili Daktari, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. Thank you, President. My position will be to appreciate the LSK for the good job that you've been doing in upholding the rule of law. We all have to collectively gather around you. We all have to appreciate the fact that even the Gen Zs are reading the law and appreciating what it means as regards misgovernment and misadministration. So it's a moment that probably has taken a while before we've gotten here. But now that we're here, we have to all go at the same speed and on the same page, where we appreciate that misgovernment costs us a lot of misdevelopment and no progression in our lives as persons who are supposed to exist in the years to come. So our children are likely to be affected by all the decisions that are made by the persons in leadership today. So my first point of observation would be the fact that I'd go on specific issues regarding the killings that have recently happened. Well, the police could be said to be fully to blame, or the security forces, but there are persons who are also likely to go and shield under to appear like they are working with the police, but they're not the police. And these are persons who have served in the KDF, former KDF persons, former police officers who serve as bodyguards, private security, and even goons. Now, these are persons who probably were in those skirmishes, those protests, and because they were dressed in civilians, they are free
because they know how to use firearms, they're free to shoot at anyone. And because it's not easy to account on them and get hold of them, those crimes continue. So it's probably better if we have recordings of these persons who are shooting, or persons who are seen holding those guns at the parliament office, parliament grounds, to see whether they're actually persons in service, or persons who are civilians or former police security, former security officers who chose to attack unarmed civilians. And in their ways, they were like protecting their bosses, the politicians. But in this case, it's not supposed to be that way, because there's a law that there's a position after a case by Katimba Institute in 2022 which prohibited the use of firearms. There is no right to shoot anyone. So December 2022, the 3-judge bench gave out that pronouncement. And as recent as this month, 5th of July, the IG of police and the Attorney General's office moved to the Court of Appeal to reverse that judgment, because they want to get the right to shoot. Now, the right to shoot, that section B of the 6th schedule of the National Police Act. Now, in Kenya, we have a very good legal framework whereby all our laws are online. So we just Google that section B of the National Police Act, 6th schedule, and there were sections that prohibit that gave directions to use firearms, and the court in that judgment pronounced against that position. So now that the AG is out and now that the IGP is out, they're still moving to get the directions to institute an appeal and be allowed to shoot persons in case of whatever. So we must be vigilant as Kenyans that the right to shoot, to kill, or to maim, it should be well guarded, and there should be very good reasons as to why that should happen. Now, on the same vein, there is these persons, the IG, again, they have resigned, and the CS Interior, they have resigned. And this is the persons who are supposed to be liable for all those killings. Now, killings that are directly related to the police officers other than the other persons in the mix. Now, these persons, in my view, they should be pursued even after leaving office. And not just these 2 officers. The persons in the divisions, the persons in the regional commanders, all police force units. Every place that had an issue, all those bosses, they should be held accountable for the lost lives that have happened. We should not allow Kenyans' lives to just go like that just because they're all on the streets protesting about something. And if it's to make arrests for persons who are probably being violent and all that, that should be the order of the day, and not just to kill persons at will because someone has a monopoly of violence. It shouldn't be the rule of law. Again, related to that, there is what happened in the US, the defunding of the police whenever they breached the human rights of killing persons, the case of George Floyd. There is which is similarly related to that, there is this good conduct that you're supposed to get clearance for as Kenyans at the DCI. Now again, the parliament in the year 2022 April, it passed a law that no Kenyan, whenever they're seeking jobs and employment, should move to pay the 1,050 shillings to the DCI. The law prohibits that collection, but impunity has been continuing for the last 2 years. The 1,050 shillings has to be paid on e-citizen for you to collect your good conduct. Now the government is supposed to fund DCI to do its work, because that's the law. So as LSK, as all Kenyans, we need to check DCI to do what they're supposed to do. And that illegal collection of 1,050 shillings should not happen, because the law as it is, as clearly stated, there should be no collections by public entities on the issuance of the good conduct. And this more so affects the youth, persons who don't have monies to pay the help. Help have complied with that law. The CRBs are yet to comply with that law. The EACC does not charge. Now, KRA TCC, the tax compliance certificate is not charged. But the DCI have continued to collect those funds. Now, the question of refunds in the future, that we will revisit one day. But for now, we should be alive to the fact that the law states that there should be no payment to the DCI as regards that police good conduct certificate. Now, away from that, I want to move to what has been happening, the issues of the sectors, education and health sector. Well, poor service delivery has been by design. And our children, our future, our healthcare system is being affected by that continuous underfunding. And even now, to yesterday, the Speaker of the National Assembly has advised the committees to restructure or probably slash further the budgets of some of these key ministries. That's education and the health sector. By about 12 billion from the health sector, from 127 billion to now 112. And some about 12 billion again from the education sector. Now this slashing of the budget on this priority sector should not happen. So we should be more vigilant that these sectors, they should be having more funding. And also let's probably shine some more light on the health sector. It should be about 15% minimum of the national budget as per the Abuja Declaration of 2001. Now 127 billion, then reduce on the supplementary by another 12, that comes to 113 billion. That means about less than, it's very little, like about 3% of the national budget towards the health sector. Now this is just on the national government. So this lack of prioritization of the public sector is going to affect us, it's going to affect the quality of education, it's going to affect the quality of healthcare that you're going to aspire to. And even now, this spirit of universal healthcare becomes a mirage, just like a good salesmanship lingo, whereby no one knows what it means because no one wants to push to achieve that target as per what was stated in the Vision 2030 by Kibaki. It's not going to happen as long as we don't want to do it. So money has to follow that spirit for us to realize that goal. And in my view, the future is public. Public services strengthening is what we require, especially on the sectors that are very critical, sectors that affect the incomes of what you collect and take home. Because if you don't have enough money, you cannot afford private insurance, you cannot afford private school. And the more so we are charged up as middle class, and you want to say you want to take our children to middle school, to private school, we want to take our children to probably our family members to the private hospitals. We cannot sustain that kind of lifestyle. One day you're hit up with a catastrophe and you have yourself admitted in hospital privately. You cannot afford to foot bills for 3 months as a middle class. That's why we have to work to strengthen the public healthcare sector. So that lack of prioritization should not happen. Now, away from that, we'll now move into SHIF. The SHIF games, the NHIF games, and the rebranding, and all these optics that new is good, and because we are tired of reforming the old one. Now, NHIF has been there since 1966. It has roots, it has systems. But because of corruption, it doesn't work. And it's time, collectively, we shine light to these corruption menace that has been there. NHIF has no doctors as quality assurance officers. So whatever goes is, you'll probably have to go to the parliamentary website, National Assembly. Look at the committee report on the recent investigation of 2023 on the frauds done by persons surrounding or engaging NHIF. The reports are all there. Look at the histories, look at the timeline. The money is lost, how the systems work, and the failures and the challenges and how they're proposing to shift into the future. Now that shift into the future happened because there was a 3-judge bench ruling that stopped the implementation of the matching allowance. You remember that time when we had FKE going to court and the employers had to match up the contribution. Now a stalemate appeared in that September 2022. That meant those persons now were gagged. They could not know whether to proceed. It was the time after election. There was a Supreme Court election case, case going on, and the NHIF was like, what do we do now? Because now the court, the CJ, the Chief Justice, was to appoint a 3-judge bench to continue the case. But the case now was rendered dead come January 2023, when they say let's abandon ship, let's copycat the whole NHIF Act and rebrand it to SHIF and add a few things in fuse. Let's move on now with the future. Now this future that we're moving to, it is good, yes, but it's some patchy rebranding in legal engineering. It would have just been better to just reform, amend the old act, or finish that, fast track that 3-judge bench on the premise of why should the employers match up contributions to augment the underfunding in the sector, in that insurance, health financing. But that did not happen, so we abandoned ship and went into the 2.75 spirit under the SHIF. Our Constitution, Article 43.2, says everyone has a right to health care. emergency care without any conditions. The state should meet that through our taxes. But now Chief comes and edits, let's say now the Gen Z language, edits the law, the constitution, by saying that it must be conditional now. That if you don't pay into Chief, you will not get any public service in any sector. And you will also not get any emergency services as per the Health Act and as per the constitutional provisions which are supreme. Now that illegality, we are lucky, we are happy because we participated in that court case. And yesterday, the unconstitutional spirit of that Chief language predicted to that law has now been unionized. But again, the courts are also playing another game. They're suspending Article 2 of the Constitution. Anything that is illegal, anything that is unconstitutional, cannot be given more life to exist because we want to probably mark time and rethink ourselves, check ourselves to see whether now we can reinvert that. So that's Section 24, 25, 26 that prevented Kenyans from getting emergency care was rendered illegal and constitutional pronto, and it was not part of that 45 days leave extended because that should not happen. Again, the other absurdity was the aspect of persons who are not employed. How do they pay into the fund? There was a means testing instrument, an economic tool to probably use the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics on how to check whether persons can contribute into this fund. Let's say you have a TV, what the size of a TV, you have a carpeted house, or you have a tiled house, you're taking 3 meals in a day, and because of that, I think you probably should pay 1,000 bob into the fund. So this could, it's a very experimental thing, and in my view, it's going to be really difficult to how to get persons who are not employed covered. And now add the other spirit that if you're not part of the fund, you're not contributing, you get no benefits. So we were like creating a law that will not benefit anyone because there's no one to cover these people. Remember the indigents, the poor people, the elderly, the orphans. Those ones, they are already covered by the law under the National Treasury and those social programs. But what about these youthful people who are not employed and they have no means? You'll judge them on the number of meals they take, the sizes of the TV, the clothes, whatever they have in the household. Again, some of them are still living with their parents despite the fact they are over like 28, 25 to 28. So that absurdity, we really need to think collectively how to cure about that and either use our general taxes to cover that exposed category of persons. Well, young people don't have many health issues, and the state can consider to cover these people as a block, just based as a means of trying to safeguard them as they go now to make the right rules. Now, the other absurdity was outsourcing of public funds. Now, Chief Act was very creatively done. The funds are collected by us, ourselves, we contribute to that pool. But the funds are going to be administered by a private system of persons who would tender and become like the overseers in the different zones of as per the law had been drafted. Now, this will be like, they're not insurance companies. They're like insurance agents, but again, they're not like insurance agents. They're like health management organizations, again, not like health management organizations. They're like intermediaries between the fund pool, which is the SHA authority, with the SHIF funds, the PHC fund, and the ECCF, emergency care funds. And then you have a go-between person who is a private provider, an entity, like now what manages the TSC and the police service system. So these entities will be rebranded, so many of them, and they'll be like the gatekeepers of where the money will go. Now, remember, these are persons who control the channels. If the channels are controlled by private sector, persons are not probably accountable to us because the spirit of that was there's a lot of money that's being lost in the public sector. So let's try and privatize. Right? This is a very strategic privatization tactic. You privatize claims payment to a private provider who's not an insurance, who does not follow any law, and it's only one statement in the Insurance Act that gives them authority to do that. So that was really clouded. That section 35 thereabout in this Chief Act, it really needed to go. And I'm happy that law is suspended now, and with the hasty public participation that happened, that should never ever happen. Actually, if whatever happened in June 25th, when the parliament was invaded, it should have happened last year because things were really, really hot and bad. National Assembly took its public participation to Makueni. The Senate took its public participation to Turkana. And if you had submitted your documents as a memorandum, you had to make a trip to these places to do your physical presentation. And remember, during that time, the Health Act, the health laws, they were given like 7 days to submit and make appearances. Short time, no one needs to move around to go and make those submissions. So, and the laws were passed, and that was it. Within like 14 days, the bills became law, and here we are now today. 2 years, 1 year later plus, and the laws are suspended. We are happy, but the courts are playing a game of suspending Article 2 about the constitutionality and how laws should be filtered. If the laws are finally made, the system of law, as per the constitution, should filter such laws and not give them some leash of life as we try to recreate or reenact some of the sections that were found unconstitutional. So that should not happen. So as I finish, I want to say the future is public. We should all work together to champion the rule of law. And we champion the safeguard of public services because it's public services that buffer us whenever we're exposed out here. And let's strive to get a Kenya that works for all of us, the youth, the elderly, children, and the retirees, and everyone, the police, KDF, and all those people who are out here in the country. We have to make Kenya work for us. And if our leadership is not accountable, we must call out misgovernment, misadministration. Any day, it is our duty as per that Article 1 of the Constitution. Thank you. Back to you, Chair. Madam President.
Dudley, Dudley, your mic is on. We can hear you. Dudley, you can assist with the next speakers.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam President, Faith Odhiambo of the LSK. Thank you very much also for the good job that you've been doing, especially during the period when people are still being abducted, and the job that all the LSK volunteer lawyers have been doing. We can see that right now we've made some little bit of achievements. We've seen heads roll a little bit, but I would just like to mention that we still need more concessions from the side of the executive. We have seen extrajudicial killings. We saw hooded men in parliament shooting at people who are only carrying placards and everything else. I would like to still mention that we need to still push more on that so that we can find out who these people were. We have these people brought to book, and we need to see police officers charged, the guys who shot. I understand that there are regulation established by the National Police Service Act and the IPOA on use of weapons. And if indeed it is true that any police officer who uses live ammunition should report the same to their commander, then it is indeed true that the leadership of the police officers are able to get these guys and have them charged. Also, I was listening a little bit earlier on, and I had a military or a police officer speak on the space, and I was a bit taken aback by his contribution, in which he was trying to urge us to go slow on matters of war and everything. And I was left wondering what was this concept about the war and everything, and how we've never been in a place where Somalia is. As far as I've been concerned, we have no reason to compare Kenya at all with Somalia. I was born and I already found Somalia fighting. It has ever been a failed state all along. There is no serious similarity between Somalia and Kenya. Kenya has always been a progressive country, especially us who grew up during the Kibaki era. We did not see so much of the things that are happening in Somalia now. And I would like to remind each and every one of us that whatever we are getting from the government now and from our current constitution is actually the bare minimum.
the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the things that we are demanding from the government, is not a favor that we are getting, that we should be fearing that there is likely to be a war. What kind of war? There can't be a war between a few government machineries and the citizens themselves, who are just trying to exercise their right to express themselves and just to exercise their rights to be heard. And that is why in the new constitution, the name of the former Kenya Police Force was renamed to be a service, essentially for them to provide a service to the citizens and not to be at war with them. Also on the issue of property, I like to bring to us the consciousness that this idea that somebody lost property, somebody lost a business, somebody lost anything, in my opinion, that idea should never rise in a case where we are talking about loss of life. Because you cannot buy life. You can't do anything to a life that is lost. Once somebody dies, they have died. But the people who lost property can be compensated. They can still make more property. They can still work. Even the government itself, right now they already gave a report saying that they'll repair the damages in parliament with I don't know how many billions. Where are these billions coming from? It is from the taxpayers' money. There is no other way that the government collects money. It's either through taxpayers' money and borrowing. Now, if you've shot and killed 20-something-year-old children for getting into parliament and demanding to be heard by their MPs, then through their tax or the tax of their parents, again you're going to repair the parliament. How then do you justify that property was lost or anything? Or that people ate food in parliament, people ate rice and beans, and all those foods have been bought by the taxpayers' monies, and therefore there is no reason or justification whatsoever for the loss of life. And the speech by that police officer made me understand why police are still so much fascinated with killing people and shooting people. If that is still the reasoning, I think we need a lot of education in our police service, because it's not even a service. I think the name changed, but the police is still a force and a brutal force, and I think there will need so much education. If you compare with what happened in America in January 6th, I think 2021, when I think Biden won the election and he was supposed to be sworn in, and supporters of Donald Trump attacked Capitol Square, where the seat of power of the parliament is. We did not have even one case of anybody dying, and that was almost an act of insurrection, let alone this one of Kenya, whereby people were demanding the dropping of the finance bill, of the punitive finance bill. So I think the mentality of our police and all our military people, it takes me so much. It really shocks me if that is what they still think, and they tell us that as Kenyans we are enjoying. We are not enjoying. People have fought all through, ever since the time of 1992 or the Sabas, even before we were born. People were always fighting for what Kenyans have today. So we still need to keep on the fight. We still need the IBC reconstituted so that we can start the process of recalling the members of parliament who voted against what the citizens had instructed them. We need the leadership to start working for us and not to work for the appointing authority or party affiliations. Also, I had a concern on the Auditor General. The Auditor General does a good job at the end of the day. But normally I do wonder, is there a gap between what happens to the report of the Auditor General? Is it that I think the Auditor General presents this report to Parliament, but we never see action on the report. We just see that there's a report made on TV that the Auditor General pointed corruption in counties, in national government, but we do not see it picked up. I don't know whether it's supposed to be picked up by the DPP or after parliamentary committee also investigates. We just see those reports end up disappearing also. Then also I had a concern on the audit of the public debt, and I don't know if Madam President will correct me later on. It was my considered opinion that the Presidential Task Force on the audit of the debt should have proceeded, other than have the Auditor General audit the debt and release the report. Then we do not see so much happen to the Auditor General's report. It's like it normally just goes to Parliament and just gathers that there. As I conclude, I'd like to urge each one of us to just keep on pushing. Let's push more. Let's just get more concessions from the government. Let's proceed with the pushing of the reconstitution of the IBC so that we can begin the process of recalling the members of parliament who do not work for the people, so that as we move forward we can have a government that works for us, and we can see more of common sense leadership in the government of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kwanza. We'll have Dr. Victor Kipimo followed by Mark. What Mark says. Perhaps we could use 5 minutes because I see there are a lot of questions on the mic. 5 minutes, Dr.
Alright, thank you so much for giving me this space. I don't have much submissions. First of all, I want to thank North Side of Kenya, led by Faith Odhiambo. Thank you so much for not sleeping with the government. I know maybe by any chance the government tried to come and be with their side, but thank you for being independent. Thank you so much. For those people, if you're present here and you voted for Faith, thank you so much. Secondly, I know what's happening in Kenya. It's so good. We want to make those seats not. Let us make these seats not. Let us not make these seats for for each and every, nowadays you find people with good professions, they just want to leave their profession and join politics because they want to go and loot, because they know that's the only way to loot and be rich. Just make your lineage be that of Kenyatta family. Like each and every politician, even now, the way Ruto does things is he wanted to loot. That's why he walks around the wall just to go and meet. Like the other day, he met Joe Biden. He wants just to pocket, so that he be rich and his family be known all over the world for centuries, and that should not be the way. Secondly, I know most of the agencies are in streets simply because they are educated and they are jobless. You know, the way Kenya is, we shouldn't be having a jobless Kenyan, because the amount of money that politicians do loot, if that amount is to be made, like if we are to make companies, for example, we can make lots of companies which will consume all the youth of this country, and no one will be jobless, because we have got farms, you know, we have got farms, we have got space in our country. If you can build industries, because I've come and discovered that in Kenya we import many things. We import very fucking stupid things which we can be importing, even things like diapers. We have cotton, we grow cotton, we can make our own companies and produce these things. And if we make companies, we will if we for example, if we are to make companies, we will employ many people. Another thing is, let us make these seats. A time has come for we Kenyan people to make a minimum wage for our people, for our country. For example, there is no way a teacher will be earning 20,000, politician is earning 1 million, a doctor, by profession, a doctor doing surgeries, being paid like fucking 200,000, and a fucking politician is paid 1 million. You know, that doesn't make sense at all. So we have to. There is a lot of messes in our country. I don't know. It's only that. Thank you.